I think we are in business. All right, welcome everybody to our Q3 tug. Going to kick things off. Just a reminder to get our latest communications. We now use a platform called Bevy. It's still the same, roughly the same address that we've always gone to before. So make sure you're checked out to our user group, join our group. You'll get all the future communications for upcoming events. And you can also sign up to speak. Speaking doesn't have to be a high pressure situation. You can speak for 5 minutes. You can speak for 50 minutes, as much or as little as you want. If you would like to sign up on our user group page, there is a sign up form, and you can feel free to reach out if you have questions or anything beforehand. As always, your leadership team is myself and Nikki. You can reach us both at pghtug@gmail.com. Both have several years of experience in Tableau. Happy to lead this group. So some Tableau happenings. So we have some new job alerts. And just a reminder, you guys don't have to frantically write any of this down. If you are in the market for a new job, as always, we will share these materials after, but some 2 local jobs, a remote one, and as well as GNC, a senior analyst role in Pittsburgh. So check those out. We will share this so you have that information. And then some Tableau happenings. The 2023 Tableau ambassadors were just announced. So congrats to all of those folks. If you would like to learn who they are, reach out to them. You can follow. All of these links are embedded here. The Data Fam Roundup, the September edition, recently came out. So if you're looking for a good way to kind of stay on the up and up with what's going on, what content people are producing, sign up for this. You can check out. It's released every week. Again, the link is here. And then just as a notifier, the Iron Viz qualifiers will start. And I believe it runs October 2nd through the 31st. So if you're looking to step up and challenge yourself and build a Viz and put it out there. A certain speaker on today knows all about what that is like. So you can reach out to him with questions. But if you like to jump in and join the fun, the link is here as well to look out for that. So our agenda today, we have 2 amazing and gracious speakers. We're going to be talking about how to build a Tableau community within your organization. I will say that this content will translate into, a lot of venues. So just building a community in general. And then we're going to talk about how Tableau and ChatGPT can work together to build some beautiful data stories. And then we will round out the meeting with some lovely Kahoot trivia. And you have a chance to win some swag here at the end of the meeting. So stick around, please. A final note here is part of our speaker sign up is meeting a member. If you'd like to just introduce yourself or your group to publicize, maybe you have an internal tug or you just want to talk about the department that you work in, that is one of our options here. When you sign up to speak, you can just sign up to introduce yourselves, and it's a simple little slide. We'll send you these questions and we can feature you on one of our next meetings. So without further ado, our first speaker is Karan. He is an analyst with Highmark Health, been using Tableau for several years, and he is going to speak to us about how he has led a data culture and enablement team, and basically influenced the data literacy and governance throughout his organization. And then Will Sutton, again, like I said, a prior Iron Viz champ and a Tableau visionary. He works at the Information Lab. I'm sure you've seen his content on several social media platforms. He's going to talk to us about Tableau and ChatGPT. And he actually gave this talk at Dreamforce. So this is like a round 2. So you guys get to even hear sort of a second version of his talk where he learned from his experiences in working with these 2 tools together. So reminder that during the session, if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A. That is different from the chat box. You should see the Q&A box the whole way to the right at the bottom of your screen. It has a little question mark in it. So if you post questions in there, we will either answer them live or we'll take those at the end of each session. Again, if you want to just chat with the community, provide comments, cheer our speakers on, you can do so in the chat. All right, so let's begin. Without further ado, Karan, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you, Jennifer. And just to start out, I have to say I'm glad I'm going before Will. I think I chose to because it will be hard to do anything after that. So yeah, I will share my screen and let's get started. Okay. Perfect. And I think I'm sharing the right screen. Okay. Yep. Perfect. So hey everyone, this is Karan. As Jennifer mentioned, I've been using Tableau for close to 5 years now. Currently, I'm a digital marketing analyst, and everything that I'm planning to talk about today is actually related to my last position. But I think that's one of the things that I wanted to, cover, is that it provides me an opportunity to see the other side of things when it comes to Tableau. So we'll go through some of that. Um, Very quickly, the agenda. So a brief intro from me. We'll cover why we should care about building a community, because I know a lot of people are utilizing Tableau, and when we say analysts, we are ready to dive down into the details and bring some insights. So we'll talk about that. What is data literacy? Stakeholder engagement, and we'll cover some brief about data governance. Again, within the time limits here, we want to make sure we are not going into the complete details of it, but I want to make sure that we are covering the aspects of it where you are aware of things like these. Um, so my journey has been, I would say, a bit of a unique journey. I started with test automation. It was back in 2012. Did some test automation on my end, and then came for grad school. I happened to encounter Tableau in my experience with my grad school, and then kind of, in my job, I was lucky enough to come across a tool like this. So um, definitely has been a very important part of my journey with analytics. And as I mentioned, like my most recent experience was as a data culture and enablement lead. Although I work on a lot of like digital marketing analysis and planning right now, I think this was one of those positions where it provided me with an opportunity to just look at the other side of this world. So I'm glad I get to talk to all of you today and share some of that with everybody. So why build a community, right? So I get this a lot. So when I start discussing these things with people, they are like, well, okay, tell me about how Tableau joins work, right? That's the most popular, and the questions that everybody is looking for, like, okay, how can I include more analysis into this? But I think building a community, even if you are a team of three, let's say, right, it's very important for building that kind of a trust together. And if you don't have a good trusted community, anything that you throw out there is probably going to be a miss, or maybe you have one of the best analysis done, but you need to have that buy-in from people around you. So I always call that like do you have a strong floor zero, right? Or you can call that a basement. Like, do you have a strong foundation where you can build things on top of it? So think about your stakeholders, and maybe they are the first time Tableau users. So some of them might have used other tools like Power BI before, but they are new to Tableau. Some people may have not done any kind of BI, analysis before this, so they are just new to the whole environment. So keeping these things in mind will help you get more, buy-ins, and it will always help you to get some early feedback from them. So while I was working as an enablement lead, one of the feedbacks that we got was like all of our interactions were you know good, but people didn't know how to reach out to people about their licenses. So they didn't know where to log in. They didn't even know there are like multiple ways to reach out to a Tableau online version, or do they utilize the in-house server? So there are a ton of these questions that are always going on in your stakeholders' mind. So be respectful of that, and anything that you can do around that, I think it's a great way to build that trust together. So keeping the focus on the business problem is always important. I think technology is always changing. There are different BI tools out there. There will be another one next year, I think. So there's always that new aspect of things that you want to cover in your analysis, and focusing on the business problem will always be a priority for everybody you are working with. It can be your team, or in sometimes, for example, in my current role, I'm working with a lot of marketing strategies team where BI is not their priority, but they are happy to discuss anything that saves them time, right? If they have Excel worksheets that they have been sending around in emails, and if we can automate some of that in a Tableau dashboard, that's when they will start talking to you. So there's always the changing priorities on your stakeholder side. And that's how I think data literacy is one of those terms that you might have seen being thrown around. And there are different versions of it depending on where your team and your organizations are. Your The data literacy piece is gaining, I think, is gaining a lot more importance, because more and more people are realizing that you can save a lot of time if you can make use of these tools. So I'll not go through the entire thing here, but I do want to share a workbook that I came across on the Tableau website. So I'll just go out of this and want to share this. So this is, and I'll share a link to this too. One of the things that I really liked about this is like the clear explanation of how many percentage, like how much leaders expect all employees to have basic data literacy, and that's close to 82%. And on your extreme right, you will see only 40% of employees say they are provided with the data skills that they are expected to have. So there is a huge push from top down, but there is not enough awareness. Even with Excel, for example, I always have suggested people to start off with Excel, where they are more comfortable in utilizing these data literacy skills. And that's where I mentioned, like there are people who are at different stages of these, so it's hard to bucket them. So you have to probably, starting out, talk to them about where they are. And this workbook is on this page. You can play around with this. Again, has a lot of good questions around which skills are the most important for success. You can compare these by different departments, industry. So a lot of this is around the lack of data literacy in the current environment. um, and I'll go back to this here. Sorry about that. So yeah, um, I think we covered this one. Yeah. So stakeholder engagement. I think one of the important pieces that I mentioned about keeping your stakeholders engaged. There are different ways of doing it, and again, I know the audience here might not be the ones that are actually conducting these, but I would love for you to see a 360 vision of why these things are done. Right? Why are you called up to a user group or doctor session, or you are receiving a monthly newsletters? All of these are part of that overall blueprint, and Tableau actually calls that a Tableau blueprint of building up that strong community. So as and when you are getting all of these feedbacks, there have been more than 3 or 4 instances where we would go in and somebody would ask a question, and another member from that team, from the organization, have answered those, or maybe they have just gotten in touch after that. So that's a great opportunity. Imagine spending maybe 3 hours trying to figure that out, or maybe you're getting in touch with other people. So you are saving a lot of time by being involved in these user groups. And I know, like, there's not a lot of time that you know you can't go to everything that is there, but every opportunity that you get, at least one of them, you can check out the newsletters if your organization is going through that. And if you're not doing right now and you are thinking, maybe I can do more here, maybe start off with one of these things here, doctor sessions or newsletters. So I think that's a lot of good engagement that you can make use of. um, I'll move on to data governance. This is one of the things where I think a lot of questions pop up around, well, do you even have good data, right? I wanted to briefly touch on this because this kind of ties in with data literacy, because as you are building up this strong foundation, you also want to make sure that you decide where the team or the organization is in terms of how wide you can go with this. So if you have, let's say, 40,000 people in your organization, it's very hard for you to centralize everything in that sense, right? You have one team that is now looking at multiple data sources. You are talking to multiple verticals. There are senior VPs and directors who are talking to you. So it needs to make sure that even in a decentralized or a centralized form, you are making sure your data literacy is tying up to good data governance. So you need to make sure that data remains in a usable format for everybody to make utilize that efficiently. So I think data engineering is a big part of it. I've always told that we as an analyst, or when we are utilizing a tool like Tableau, it's very important for us to realize that it's probably the lesser percentage of that work is done in Tableau. I would say a lot of that heavy lifting is done beforehand. And if you have more and more data coming into the organization, there is a lot of different puzzle pieces that you have to put together before it even can be presented to somebody. um, and I think that's the part where I always include data governance and data engineering as part of it, because although these are separated, but it has to be talked about when we are talking about data literacy. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, we covered that in a very quick timeline, and I'll be happy to talk more about, if any one of you want to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk more about it. But I wanted to make sure that I'm utilizing this time to kind of introduce you to a lot of these different pieces, and I'm opening it up for Q&A.
So I didn't see anything come through the Q&A chat, but I was wondering, Karan, could you walk us through maybe some of like the tangible examples or some things that you did implement in your last role or at your last company to increase data literacy or improve, the data governance to build
Um,
the community?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go back to this one here. So I think
Oh, sorry.
definitely monthly newsletters was one of the things that. So before I joined in, there were user groups that we were doing as part of the engagement sessions, but I think monthly newsletters were one of those things where we started getting more traction with time, because we could actually track through sites like Confluence, like who is accessing that page. So we could see an uptick on some of the people who couldn't join in, or they didn't have enough time. A lot of time VPs who are getting introduced to Tableau for the first time, they started looking at these newsletters, and most of the discussions were around, well, let's just give it a shot, let's see what these guys are up to. So I think that was one of the things that was very, very useful for our community. Yeah.
That's a very good point. I think about the different roles too, and like not making assumptions about other users' ability levels too. Because as a consultant, I get exposed to a lot of companies, data practices, and can kind of see how well, some of these things are implemented. And I think it's telling, or it's important to keep in mind of just educating everybody from that VP who's probably consuming the data in a different way than maybe the data engineer or the analytics engineer, right? That's like has their hands deep in the trenches, but both people need to understand data and like so that they can actually talk and work towards the same goals. So I think it's
Exactly.
great to think
Yep.
about all of the different roles at your organization when you're trying to build that community, and maybe not necessarily just the technical, right? A lot of folks on this call are probably more towards like the technical, and they're in the trenches, but making sure to bring everybody else along with you too.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Do you have any other questions or comments from the group? Well, thank you, Karan. And like I said, we'll share his information. I know he's on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us or to him, and we can get you connected if you're trying to do the same thing at your organization. So if there are no other questions, comments, concerns, I will now turn things over to Will.
Buddy, let me just share my screen. There we go. Cool. Hi everybody, I'm Will. I've been Tableau user for I think nearly 10 years now. I love Tableau. It's enabled me to do so much like I didn't even dream of. as mentioned earlier, yes, I did not expect when I first logged on to start using Tableau that I'd be on a plane to Vegas to do Tableau in front of 5,000 people. But if you would like to have that challenge, do reach out to me. I will be sharing some resources all about IMViz, the competition, how you can get the best out of it. But yeah, I love Tableau, love using it throughout my career, but I've grown very fond of a little tool called ChatGPT. And I was hearing a lot out there about ChatGPT, but first of all, the typical Dreamforce thing is they give you this forward-looking statement. And I kept this in here. I don't want to expect you to read it. There's more a case of just a caveat to say, for this, a lot of what I'm sharing here has been based on my own tests and sort of playing around with the tool. What I recommend with this is that this talk is for you to get inspired, get some ideas of what you can do, but go and test it yourself. And at the end of this presentation, I'll be sharing some resources about this. And I had been out there seeing a lot about ChatGPT. These great AI tools, they're really smart, really clever. So clever it can pass all these different kind of exams. It's like, oh, this sounds great. Until I started seeing news like, oh, actually, they can automate all these processes. So now we don't need all these people to do these jobs. So AI is now going to start taking our jobs. It's like, that's not great, especially for me. And then I saw, oh, it's not just satisfied with taking our jobs. It's going to take our lives as well. That, we're going to be extinct because of ChatGPT. Like, what's going on there? So I was seeing all this. I was feeling quite worried. I was feeling worried for myself. Like, what does the future hold? What's my career going to look like? I mean, I'm a data analyst. Surely I'm not going to lose my job. And I found a group of people that said, well, have you actually tried using some of these AI tools? Like, in this case, ChatGPT actually really struggled. And in this case, struggles to count. So, hey, give me a 6-word story and here's 7. I found all kinds of examples where it struggled to count the number of N's in the word banana. Really strange. So I was then sort of struggling to take all these threats of losing my job, losing my life seriously. And then I found a group of people that really couldn't take ChatGPT seriously. And they were the French. So in France, when you see ChatGPT, you would pronounce it ChatGPT. And this translates as cat, I farted. So I was seeing all this out there. I was really unsure, is it going to take my life? Is it really all I should worry about? So I decided, hey, is it a joke or not? Shall I put ChatGPT to the test? At the same time, I found a little competition happening. So Visual Capitalist, you might have seen them. They share a lot of visualizations, all kind of this engaging, kind of very mobile friendly, quite heavily designed visualizations online. And they were running a competition. They wanted you to design one of these visualizations for a mobile platform on the subject of international trade. And there was 1 week left to the deadline. I figured this is a time. This is a good moment to try and test ChatGPT. Can it live up to all the hype? And I want to say I entered this competition for noble, for research reasons, but there was also $2,000 on the line, so $2,000. So this was enough to sort of swing me to go and sort of take on this competition. I had the sort of reasoning that, hey, if ChatGPT can't produce a visualization like this, then my job is safe. I'm all okay. But if ChatGPT could win the competition, I'm gonna have to find myself a new job or new career. But I've got $2,000, so I'm not all out of luck there. So this then became the sort of carrot that I was working through with ChatGPT, and this was back in May. So this was reasonably early on. ChatGPT's been evolving quite a bit lately, but can ChatGPT win me $2,000 in a data viz contest? So I set off. International trade is not an area I work in. It's not a data set I've seen many times before. So I just asked ChatGPT, hey, could you go out there and just tell me a story about international trade, data story there? Well, what came back with these I came back with 5 different sort of ideas here, some different topics I could work through. So, looking at all those changes in commodities, changes in exporters, regions coming together. I looked over these and I thought, hey, I like this one. I like this idea of commodities, thinking about gold, about precious minerals, diamonds, all this kind of nice stuff. I thought that's something I can relate to. That's something other people can relate to. So let's go for commodities. So we then start working with ChatGPT on the subject of commodities. So I had a data set that I could then give in part to ChatGPT. It was like early functionality. So I said, this is what my data set looks like. How can I prepare this data set? What kind of story could I tell with some of the columns I had in my data set? And I only had a week and I was really pushed. But by the end of the week, I actually had 2 visualizations completed on this. So this was where I was getting ChatGPT to help me create these visualizations. So one of these was on pearls, the other one was on diamond trade in the world, and I was really pleased with these. I hadn't really entered into these data sets before, but I was able to craft a story here. So with pearls, I was getting ChatGPT to help me out with those titles, help me out with descriptions of what like a natural pearl is, what a cultured pearl is. This visualization, I kind of wanted to build like a string of pearls, sort of like a network diagram, but a bit more to it than that. So I was getting ChatGPT to help me with some of the maths of working out the areas of some of these pearls. Looking back on it, I don't feel it's like the best representation of the data, especially when you get to some of the smaller numbers here. This one here is meant to be 86% in dark blue. For the natural pearl side, that doesn't look like 14%. But I was using this to sort of craft out this kind of visualization that wasn't normally available in Tableau, but I got the tool to help me get there. Similarly with this on diamonds as well. A lot of help with the charts. This image actually came from Midjourney. That was a bit of a cheat on my side, but I wanted something a bit more eye-catching there as well. And I was really pleased. So I was felt, hey, not only have I got a chance here, I've got 2 chances. I've got 2 horses in the race here. So I was really looking forward to seeing what the winners were, what the shortlist was. So this was it. I was ready for this moment when Visual Capitalist announced their shortlist. I was looking at these visualizations like these look quite cool. And wait a second, where's mine? What's turned out so neither of them had made it there. Not one of them. I was quite, what's gone on here? And I thought, well, that's it. ChatGPT is not going to take my job. That's it. It's all good. I'm safe in my career. And as I was looking over the visualization, I looked over this one in particular. This one went on to win the competition called Out of Africa. This was all about seeing changes in trade from Africa so they become much more of an exporter country. When I was looking over it, something kind of twigged in my brain to say, wait, this sounds familiar. I remember I looked back at those stories that I got ChatGPT to walk me through and thought, wait a second, this story was staring me in the face the whole time, but I have gone and picked the commodities. I've done the wrong thing here. At this point, I'm feeling pretty low. I feel like ChatGPT could take my job, and I've not got $2,000. So I'm in the worst possible position here. I gave myself a bit of space. I thought about it. Wait a second. Well, even if I had picked this topic about the shifts in major exporters and importers, how would I then go on to decide to make this visualization? I know how I would go and build it in Tableau. I know how I'd go and try and recreate it, but how would I decide to do it? How would I decide to make a Sankey chart and then overlay that onto an area chart behind that? How would I decide these colors, this text, or the font choices? How would I choose to do that? And I realized I wasn't going to find that answers anywhere other than the person who made this visualization. So I did what any data nerd would do. I started a podcast. So yes, I started a little podcast series on YouTube asking data visualization creators how they decide to make their visualizations. Yes, so I spoke with the winner of this competition. I spoke with the runner-up. I spoke with loads of people who made great visualizations. So they had either got like won awards, hundreds of favorites on Tableau Public, got into the Information is Beautiful awards, amazing pieces of work. And you'd be surprised how much people are willing to tell you under the guise of a podcast. But while I was hearing back all these different feedbacks, these completely different visualizations altogether, but they kind of had some common threads to them. So when I had been building out my work, I'd been thinking about what's the process I should go through. Should I start with the data set, then try and find a story, then build some charts from that? But what I learned was the order actually didn't matter. Speaking to all these authors, actually found that you could create very good pieces of work, just say starting, hey, I want to build this kind of chart, find a data set, and then we're going to make a story from this. So this gave me some reassurance that actually the order of the process didn't matter so much, but actually you needed to hit all three of these things. So you need to have data, like a good data set, good story, and a good charts to go and show that. Our authors here were working what we call iteratively, but in this sense, or what I learned was a lot of them, oh, I got a Slack message. So a lot of them were working in this iterative process where they actually had several pieces of work going on at one point in time. And what you actually saw here at the end of this was actually only a fraction of what they'd been working on. So like a top level things that made the light of day. So this gave me some reassurance that I could have pieces of work that I don't feel were that good, but I could stop working on them and work on other pieces that I felt were better. So that's what our authors were doing here. And lastly, they had an element of feedback to it. So they were going out into the community thinking about how can I progress this piece of work? How can I get this to a final finished piece of work to help them really like produce that sort of nice finishing touches to the work. So, okay, I've got all these ideas, all these new like upskill in my head about how I can go and make this kind of visualization using ChatGPT. But at the same time, ChatGPT has been getting an upgrade as well. So while I've been working away, it's now gone and got itself the advanced data analysis module. So this was formerly known as the code interpreter, but now they've renamed it advanced data analysis. If I had to say in 3 words what my job was, it would be that. So these fears of it's going to take my job are still with me. I mean, it's gunning for my job completely. So, but I've got this new tool that I can use to help me understand, is it going to take my job? So we refined the process a little bit more. The competition has passed, but could I say create a visualization for visual capitalists? So this is using GPT-4, again, the paid version with the code interpreter as of August. So visual capitalists will generally accept visualizations to publish, and you will still get some money in return for that. So I'm still potentially going to earn some cash out of this. So let's start up. So I realized what I needed was a bit better strategy than what I had before. So before I just kind of went with it, but now what I realized was that a lot of the troubles we had were because of me making wrong decisions or making like bad choices here and there. So what I'm going to get is going to just get ChatGPT to do all the work for me. I didn't want to introduce too much bias based on myself. So ChatGPT, I'm going to get you to come up with all these kind of different ideas, all these different combinations of methods to build a visualization or to get started working with that, and primarily make those decisions. Is going to have the call on it. But for me, I'm primarily here. So ChatGPT can't build Tableau visualizations, sadly. So that comes down to me. I'm going to have to build all the visualizations. I'm also going to give it a quick check for accuracy. And then just if there's anything issues coming back, I'm just going to tell ChatGPT, can you fix this? What's going on with this? Just to make sure we're producing good pieces of work at the end of it. And so what we could see was some of the good stuff and some of the bad stuff. So this, well, no, not yet. We actually, before we got to that stage, we actually had to get ChatGPT a bit more trained, ready to do data visualization. So I had seen from the first task that ChatGPT wasn't very good at recommending different types of charts. It was typically like, here's for this chart, you'll have a bar chart. And for the next chart, you'll have a bar chart and maybe a line chart later. So what I was using here was using the Financial Times visual vocabulary. This is quite a good piece of work to give you ideas on like different points of analysis and charts that could show their analysis for you. So I converted this to text and then put that into ChatGPT to go and process that information. I was then working with this prompting technique here called craft. So this stands for different formats here. So these are just sort of headings for me really to inform ChatGPT on how to go and process the data I'm trying to give it. Because what I'm trying to do with this framework is trying to get ChatGPT to be focused much more on it has all that information out there in the world. I want it to process and to making visualizations, and then in particular good visualizations. So this was this framework. So this craft method here, so this context is all about what the goal you're trying to achieve with this. So in this case, I want you to be like building a visualization that visual capitalists will accept. What role do I want it to take? I want it to be an expert data analyst, data visualization creator. The action I want it to take. So I want it to perform data analysis, find data stories, pick charts based on the visual vocabulary. Format here is about how you want to receive the data coming back. So in this case, like text format instructions will be fine. And target here, targets is an important one. This is your target audience. So who was going to consume this? So visual capitalists, they're mostly like financial professionals interested in the economy, in money, in trade, and they like good data visualizations too. So I got ChatGPT set up there. And now on to some of the good stuff I got back from ChatGPT. So again, as before, like give me an idea. So here we had an idea that came back, and give me a nice idea is then also give me a data source there. So go over to find this fintech database. Okay, I was able to find that. I was able to put the data back into ChatGPT and start processing that data towards that sort of story idea. This was some of the good stuff that was coming back. Now I'm going to show you some of the bad stuff that came back. So what happens is with ChatGPT, tries like the code interpreter advanced data analysis will go and try and produce you a chart of the analysis. So I think if we can all see like the chart on the left, I think it doesn't take like a technical stakeholder to know there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Something's gone wrong. Something's happened in the Python interpreter, and it's tried to make a chart. Even better, it's tried to give some observations about this chart. Like clearly, you can see this. I can't, but any stakeholder would know that there's something gone wrong here. Chart on the right is a bit trickier. So there's two things that have gone wrong here. So what we're seeing is a global trend of financial accounts over time. What it seems like there's quite a dramatic drop off here in 2022. And the reason we're seeing that is one, due to the fact that this axis has been truncated here. It's been cut off at about 35% or so before then. So this makes this accentuation look quite sharp, quite a sharp drop off from the previous year. But in addition, that there have been only a few countries have been reporting in 2022. So what we're seeing, maybe only like 10% of the data was here. So this was not a true reflection of what we were trying to get to with a global average. So in a sense, maybe you shouldn't be including this data point in the chart or adjusting in some way, but you shouldn't be saying the story shouldn't be from this that, there's been a massive drop off in financial accounts in most recent year. But that is the interpretation that a stakeholder, they haven't had the skills as a data analyst or seen this before, might be slipped up by. So this this was not great. This is like one of the things, if you have a non-technical sort of stakeholder, you advise them against these things. But I was able to work through these issues, and in the end, I came back and I had 20 different ideas. 20. Yeah, that's a lot. So this is when I started reviewing the work to see, is it any good? 6 cases I saw no, in fact, incorrect analysis conducted completely. And another 4 where there was quite a lot of disconnect between what the story was, what the chart was, and what it was all showing. So I was quite confused with this case. So I'll give you an example of some of the ones where it came wrong. So I had this story here about Minnesota. Minnesota's undermates. So Minnesota's remarkable rebound. Okay, so it's giving me a story about the decrease in unemployment. Good. Give me some nice chart ideas as well. Those are good. Then when I make the charts in Tableau, I see this, and I looked at this. I've highlighted Minnesota in blue, and I thought it doesn't look that remarkable. And indeed, when I poured in like the state of Nevada here in black, it's not remarkable. I can't tell a story about how remarkable the change is when in the context of this data compared to the other states, it's not that remarkable. So this was one of the ones that was discounted along with a few others as well. So in the end, what I've ended up with is 10 visualizations, 10 ideas here. So it's just still much more than I would ever have before, though, at the same time. So about 50% error rate, but I'm still way ahead of where I would be in terms of ideas. So at this point, I got all these visualizations. I've done the checks. I then asked ChatGPT to rank them, rate them based on what it thought the best ones would be for Visual Capitalist. And I started building on those. So I started with these 3. So there were these 3 visualizations here. So I asked it to pick its best charts to explain the story as well as best stories here. So I got these 3 and I started doing this iterative building on these ones here to try and build them up in the time I had left. So this was, again, only a week. But by the end of the week, I had these 3 visualizations come back. So there were some things going on here. So like the charts here changed. Like there was a point at which I really had to go back to ChatGPT and say the chart's not working. What else could you do? And we got this one in the end. So this sort of adjustment of looking at these different economic levels, about different industries, about where they see their economy gains all its wealth from. Which I thought was quite nice here. We then had this investment landscape with this chord diagram. So this is where I was being led by the chart, say, hey, do the chord diagram. So I was able to build those out, build this out into a design. And then this last one, this sort of, it's like almost like a Gantt chart, this sort of progress of changing financial payments from 1 year in 2014 to 2021, which I thought was quite nice. And I was pleased with these at the end of the week. I've got 3 now, so this all looks good to me. But I then sent them over to Visual Capitalist to get some feedback, had I made it? And I can tell you that as of yesterday, there were 2 that didn't make it, but 1 I haven't heard back on. And I knew this at the time that they may take a while getting back to me. So I asked the community, and funny enough, the community agreed with them. So there was definitely some confusion with these first 2. So there were a lot of comments I was getting back from the community. I asked them, they were confused about what these metrics meant, like what's high income, what's low income. Maybe they needed a bit more examples there. There's general confusion about what this was showing. I know it's sort of like more creative sort of dollar sign going on there. I think the dollar sign was my idea, by the way, just in case you think otherwise, but how to lay this out. So, but lastly, they liked this one. They liked this idea. It was quite clear. They could understand what was going on with the visualization here. And this is the one that Visual Capitalists haven't rejected yet. I can't say they've accepted it, but they haven't rejected it yet, which I'm really pleased about. So at the end of this, I'm thinking, well, it can do it. I mean, we've come from 20 ideas down to 1, but we've still been able to produce something here. So it gets me back to this sort of question that's been sort of bugging me all this time about what's job looking like? What's my job prospects going to be? So I can say today that no, ChatGPT is not going to take my job. If you imagine that someone would go and say replace me with ChatGPT, it's just at the moment too inconsistent to really make it to like a production level to replace a person at these stages, especially when you think about the sort of technical skills you need to make sure it's doing the right thing. This talk was not about like my job alone, but it's not going to take my job, but it's certainly going to change my job. So yes, my job will still always need like the skills, the nuance of data analysis to make sure that I'm picking up on these chart choices, like issues in the data, being able to spot these things ahead of time to make sure that analysis comes out true and accurate. But I've got so many ideas here. Like I mentioned, I mean, okay, half of the ideas weren't so good, but actually I ended up with 10, and frankly, there's a lot more than I would have done had I gone from where I was starting with. So at 10 ideas, I feel was a really good place to sort of narrow down and sort of focus on what came out back as the better ideas. So it's able to like really help me propel me to the end goal here. Lastly, this is what I want to give away for you at the end here is actually yourself to actually go and build your own Copilot. I'm going to share all this like prompting scripts that I had to build this ChatGPT model to do visualizations for me to help be my Copilot there. So I'm going to give you these links here. Try and drop a link into the chat just so you can go and check this out. So you can all go and build a visualization or use ChatGPT to go and build your visualizations. That is all from me. That's all I had actually. Like you don't need to go and share your session feedback, but I'm happy to have feedback. I will say thank you there for your time. But if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Or
Sorry, well, I had a bit of a delay there. I also don't have any questions seeing in the Q&A, which shocks me because I had a million guys when I got a dry run of this yesterday. But thank you so much for sharing that link. Great presentation. I know I learned a lot. If you guys have any questions, again, I'll take that link and embed it with any resources that are shared afterwards, and we can share this information after the meeting as well. I'll give another minute. Are there any questions for Will? I think that was a very...
questions.
I think both the presentations, though, the main theme here was, just being adaptable, right? Like our technologies and our communities and just life is like ever changing, and it's changing so fast that, I think as long as we're able to adapt to the changes in our world, like our jobs are safe for now. We just got to figure out how to both use the new tools and technology that we have available to us and, just make our jobs better, enhance our jobs.
Yeah, there's definitely this ability to just go around and test some of the things that are going out there. Because definitely for what I've seen from this, like if you were, say, hand this over to a stakeholder and they think like this devaluing of the job that they now think that, yes, I can be a data analyst or like, oh, this can do all the data analysis work for me. I think there's a step there where if we're able to sort of see what the tool is doing, we can spot these things and guide the non-technical users in the right way with this. If there weren't any questions, I did have something. ChatGPT did release like a new update recently, so I could show you that.
Sure.
Yeah. So the ChatGPT released this idea, well, this concept where you can go and upload an image to ChatGPT. So I was trying to use this morning to say, hey, how would you go and improve these data visualizations to give me some feedback? So it will, in this case, be able to go and process the image. And what I got back was, hey, this issue, it tells me it displays a data visualization. Details are not entirely clear due to resolution, but it does give me some like general suggestions about how I could go and improve this. I mean, this is like a nice sort of checklist anyway. These are hard things
Yeah.
to remember when you're in the moment, but this is like a good little checklist here. I've tried a bit more to try and give it a bit more context, and it is able to give me some better, like if you give it a bit of like context of what the visualization is, what you're trying to show, what you're trying to show, who you're trying to show it to, it is able to give you a bit better instructions here.
I'm
But
curious,
it's
looking
not
at
as much as like,
those
sorry.
bold headers. I'm curious, did you train ChatGPT? Like, did you give any sort of data viz best practices or anything like that before? Or is it just
No,
spitting those
no,
things out? So I'm actually
yeah,
impressed with just even the categories of tips that it
yeah,
gave. Maybe they're
yeah,
not
yeah,
fruitful, but you'd have to read them. But
yeah. So going from cold, it is still quite good. If you give it those sort of like prompting like starters to help focus it down, it will be a lot better. Uh, this is sort of things I'm sort of just testing out here and there. Can it be a code like a data viz reviewer for me? Again, not quite yet, but it can help in certain cases here, definitely.
very cool. And Will, you said you use a paid version. Do you know the
Yes.
differences, like in terms of like features and functionality between, like a free version versus a paid, just in case anybody's kind of wondering, hey, can I get what I need from a free version or is it worth it?
So I've been using the paid version for a little while now. Well, with the paid version, you will get the advanced data analysis module, so that ability to upload files, upload
Mhm.
images, those sorts of things are available there. You get more in terms of plugins and availability. But what I was starting with was the paid version, but you didn't have any of that functionality. So in practice, what I've seen is if you can find some good use cases for using the free version, I would start there. I definitely like think that this can work with the free version. You just have to be a bit more prescriptive in terms of giving it the information. Like, so instead of uploading the data set, I was saying these are my column headers.
Mhm.
How would I prepare this data set? And then it would give me like a script to go and do that instead. So you can make some progress with the free version. If you can, just have a few use cases to try the premium version. I definitely would recommend it just to
Mhm.
see if that improves things. So it is a bit expensive if you get locked in, but it's only like you can cancel at any time. So definitely go in with those use
Okay.
cases and I think just test these things out. So
Good to know. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Anybody has any further questions? I also have Will's contact information. I'm sure he's happy to answer things. Also on Iron Viz stuff, like he said at the beginning.
yeah,
If
absolutely.
anybody's
That's
looking for tips and
I do have one question for you, Will. So it looks like you had like a lot of input that had to go into like kind of training ChatGPT. Now that you sort of have that curated, do you feel like you'll utilize this like on the daily basis, or do you think like the time that you have to put in, like narrowing down that large data set, looking at everything that it produces and seeing like what would work and what won't, like do you think that that will take more time than just coming up with the idea that yourself, or do you think that the ideas were useful enough that you'll continue to like use that in your day-to-day?
I think the ideas are useful enough to like see and like come back to that on the day to day. This is kind of just nice as a nice sort of check. It was like having a buddy at work just to run things past at times. Like, have I captured everything here? Have I seen all these things? I actually filmed a video today about doing a full like live build with Tableau and ChatGPT, and in that I'm constantly sort of like querying it, getting these different ideas. But it helps me be much more of a move my role on a bit more. So I'm focused on pressured to come up with good ideas, but I can see how my ideas compare to ChatGPT is like a good reference point. But it gives me a lot more choice to go and say, hey, I have all these different ideas here and I have a choice here of which ones I want to make rather than I came up with one idea. That's the best I got, and that'll be it. So I will continue to like use this here and there throughout my job when I'm coming up to visualizations or need those different ideas coming in. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice, thanks.
Good question. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm going to jump in and we're going to do some trivia real quick. So I hope you were paying attention because there may or may not be a question from both of our presentations today. Worst case, you have a 25% chance of still guessing it correctly. So let's jump in here. Hopefully you guys can see my screen again. I'm going to jump. There will be a QR code that pops up. So if you don't have your phone, you want to grab your phone real quick, you can grab that and scan the QR code and there'll be a pin to answer or to enter so that we're all in the same. And there is some music along with this. I did not choose it. It goes along with Kahoot. And if it's annoying, I will eventually turn it off, but we'll see if you guys can hear it. Mario World-esque type music. Can you guys hear it? Yes or no?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. Give everybody a minute or so to jump in. Just as a heads up, if you do make it to the podium at the end, all I'll ask is just email pghtug@gmail.com and let me know that you were one of the winners. And we'll be in contact. Thanks again. See if there's a pause because there are about 22 of us on and only 12 on the game. So I'll give it like another minute. Somebody ping the chat if you're struggling to get in. I'm not seeing anyone else join, so maybe the rest are just going to follow along, or you don't have your cell phone with you. Last chance. All right, we'll get started. These are a random mix of Tableau questions, and they are timed. Okay, which of the below Tableau community projects runs twice per month? The options should pop up on your phone to select. It is Back to Diz Basics. Looks like a lot of people knew that one. Let's go to the next one. All right, true or false, Tableau Public has more than 3 million profiles. It is true. Lucky guesses. No, I'm just kidding. See how our scoreboard changed. All right, PG still in the lead. True or false, Tableau Public has a Hire Me button. Ooh, split crew, but it is true. So check it out if that is something that interests you. See if our scoreboard. Oh, Mark has taken the lead. How many sheets have been used in this dashboard? This is a viz by Sam Parsons. Now this is going to be a bit of a guess, and I apologize if it is small. But take a look at those components and guess how many sheets you think are there. I don't know if that helped at all. Yeah, so it was a single sheet. Looks like only 2 people got that. So I'm interested to see what happens to the scoreboard here. Oh, it did not change. Interesting. I'm a third of the way through here. So Sankey diagrams will soon be a native chart type in Tableau. True or false? In case you don't know what a Sankey is, it looks like the visual should above? It is true. It is not yet. I believe they had a beta version that you could play around with on Tableau Public in the earlier part of the year, but it is not yet released in Tableau Desktop. Somebody can correct me if I am wrong, but I do not think it has been released yet. All right, Mark holding his lead. Question number 6. How many license types does Tableau offer? The answer is 3. Viewer, Explorer, Creator. Oh boy, that one changed up the lead. Who wrote the big book of dashboards? Let's see how well you know some of your Tableau community members. It was Steve Wexler, Jeff Schaefer, and Andy Cotgreave. If you have not read that book, highly recommend you getting it.
I second that.
Mark has retaken his lead. True or false? In Tableau, it is not possible to replace a data source per sheet. It is false. You can actually do that. All right, few changes. Mark's still on top. I believe we'll get a top 3 here at the end. All right, what does the workbook optimizer within Tableau help with? Nice job. Majority got that one correct. So it is performance optimization. It will make recommendations to speed up performance. All right, third place shifted a little bit. Another true or false? Consumers with a viewer license can create alerts in Tableau Cloud or Server to receive notifications when a value exceeds or falls below a threshold. True or false? Ooh, looks like it got most people on there. Answer is false. Notice it was the viewer license. Who's the lucky person that got that one right? True or false? Tableau offers free online training sessions in preparation for the specialist certification. That is the desktop specialist certification. True or false? That is true. And Tableau actually offers, especially since the Salesforce, the link I posted in Trailhead, there's a lot of free training out there. I've pushed people that aren't even in analytics, like my sister, to Tableau's data literacy courses just to educate people on her teams. So there's a lot of great content out there. So check out that link. All right, question 12. ChatGPT recently renamed their GPT-4 code interpreter module to what? Good job, guys. I really tried hard to make up some other semi-close responses to that. But nice job, those who got that one. All right, somebody's got a challenge mark here. There's only 3 questions left. How many pluses are on the Tableau Sparkle? Note, this picture is not a hint to that. Nice job. There are actually 9. All right, 2 questions left. Rosie is making a come for the first place. What year did IronViz first run? Some people answered this one very quickly. It is 2011. Only got 2 people that time. Let's see what happened to our scoreboard before the last question. Oh boy, AJ has taken first place. One more opportunity, you guys. True or false? Iron Viz first started as a TC breakout session. These are some very quick answers this round. True. Nice job. All right, here we go. Here's our final stance. A reminder for those of you that made the podium, please send an email to the email that Nikki shared in the chat. Looks like, is it AJ? Did AJ make it? AJ pushed Mark out for first place there. So AJ, Mark, and Rosie, please send an email to pghtug@gmail.com, and we'll be in contact with some swag for you. Thank you so much, everybody. If I jump back to my presentation here, the only one note I want to mention, oops, did not mean to do that. We are going to try to have our next, now PowerPoint's just playing with me. We're going to try to have a holiday party. So as a part of an end of year celebration, we're going to see, everybody in person, try to get together for a social event. So we will be sending out a survey just to gauge people's aptitude and kind of time of day or when you would like to have it. So be on the lookout for that. It'll come out through our Bevy platform. So make sure you're signed up for our group. I'll be posting on LinkedIn and through our Twitter. So please take a look for that and participate. Otherwise, if you're looking to speak and would like to engage with us, we are really trying to come back in person next year. So would love this social event to kick that off. Otherwise, thank you all so much for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.